Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's David Palmer, Leo King, and we are here live for New Year's Day. I know, New Year's Day. Sun and Saturn on New Year's Day. Ugh. Maybe some people are having a wonderful time out there. I'm not saying I'm not having a wonderful time, but Sun and Saturn to start off New Year's Day with, while Saturn's in its home sign. You gotta remember, Saturn is a restrictor. It is the sober one. It is the one that puts, heavy responsibility on things. We tend to always try and come into New Year's, especially with this energy of, I'm letting go of last year and I'm coming into this new vibe and this is just where things are now. Woo! I think what we've kind of learned consciously stepping into this new year is, what the hell? Is 2019 an extension of 2018? I don't think so, but the stepping stones to the doorway of big responsibility, of more importantly, a lot of things that are changing in the way that we normally look at our traditional elements of the world, or even the holiday of New Year's has, I think, shifted. I think for those that are very awake and very conscious out there, there's been this major shift coming into 2019 of, oh man, it's a little different now. And I just wanted to say, for those that might not be, so deeply into the whole conscious thing, which I think a lot of people who are here are, or anybody that ends up watching this video, that this was not a normal New Year's Day and not a normal New Year's Eve. Because there's been so much just in the last week of the buildup to 2019 that was definitely not your party energy, not an energy of feeling like a major release point without frustrations still to go through, or major choices, or major emotional decisions to make, big plans to do. It definitely has not been a time in which it's just the simplistic element of, it's a new year, yay, okay, that year's done. You see a million memes out there of like, oh, what happened? I almost died. Everybody almost died in 2018, or I don't know how I'm going to get through, that. I'm done with that, and then I think there's a reminder here that 2019 is not one to play with. I think that whatever you're going through in your life right now, whatever you're experiencing, whatever stuff that you're going through, is a reminder coming into this year. There's a sense at this doorway that it really is not a game, I guess you could say, as far as like a game that's not keeping score, or it's a little bit feeling like, I played sports my whole life, so it's kind of feeling like a championship game. It's like, whoa, this is a big deal. It's not just I can roll through this year without with just not giving a crap, or not, just kind of seeing where things go. There is an element of needing to have that go with the flow, but there's a more serious undertone to things right now. I do want to be able to get a chat room rolling on here. I'm going to be able to see this. That's group chat. I don't know, group chat, because I want to see all your guys' stuff. So give me 1 second here. And then we're going to show some charts too. Especially I want to show the New Year's Day chart and show all the stuff that's really shifted here. Oh yeah, we can pop this bad boy out. We can pop out. Beautiful. All right. Keep this paused and we're good. Yeah, so what's up, everyone? Before we go into the charts, I just want to say what up, and as a Leo typically does, adjust my hair. And Happy New Year to everybody. I don't want anybody to think that this video coming in is like some sort of Debbie Downer New Year's video. But I took the last week through Christmas and this, especially this new year, to I didn't put a lot out there. I did put out some videos, but I've taken some time off. I needed a lot of time to just rest, and I needed some time deeply inside of myself to prepare. And because I've spent all of 2018, including a US tour, going to the United Astrology Conference, pushing deep astrology all year very hard, doing a daily video horoscope, doing my weekly horoscopes, doing readings for people, doing the magazine, all to get out the message about 2019. I mean, I feel as a messenger, to get to the end of 2018 for me was exhausting, because I feel like I feel like Paul Revere saying the British are coming, and people are still kind of like looking at me like, what does that mean? You know, if you don't know the story of Paul Revere, maybe you should go look it up. But as a messenger, I feel I don't know how much more I could have done to tell people what's coming in 2019. Somebody asked when I sleep. Well, I just slept the last week. This week I got more sleep than I got the whole year, throughout a week. I literally slept most of yesterday, slept most of today. I slept Saturday. I slept Christmas. I slept before Christmas. Like, because I feel like I exhausted the message. Like, I was like, it's out. Like, if nobody's got it by here or now, then I don't know what else to say, right? Because it's kind of that weird vibe like that, you know? Which, you know, oh man. And, you know, not being in my studio to do all this stuff always makes it a little bit, you know, different. I'm so used to having all like the cool equipment and stuff. And, you know, it's funny, a lot of people sometimes tell me, oh, I really enjoy more of this kind of way of doing things. So before I go on this chart, what do I really mean by getting that message out? Well, I've been processing this a lot, because I have like an hour and 52-minute video. That's how long it is, that I haven't put out yet, because I think it might trigger too many people. I recorded it live November 10th when I did the Viridian Summit with Jax Atlantis, Starry Ari, and the Peace Dealer through High Vibe TV at the High Vibe Studios. And I haven't put it out because I feel, one, it's a little too harsh for people. It's very triggering. And it's a little hard for me, you know. I've wanted to. I've been thinking about cutting some parts out, because it's just full, real, authentic stuff about what's coming. And it's hard. It's hard. It's a hard thing. I'm at a weird time in my life being this messenger. I really am, because I feel like 2019's waters are so intense. And I think that, you know, it's not a negative thing. But what it is there's things that have gone on in our world. There are subliminal, like trigger points that have been purposely put in society to trigger people, in order for them to not understand the energy in which is coming, and to create chaos, or to go against people who put out the message, if that makes sense, you know? So I'm a little nervous to put it out there. I've asked a couple people and they say it's really cool at the beginning, but man, that halfway through the thing gets gnarly. And even in my tour videos, it's over 10 hours. I mean, I use a lot of comedy to try and help people, right? And so some of the jokes, some people get triggered by that stuff. So that's why I put up a preview and I did a little bit more of the lighter stuff up. But if you get the full series, it's deep. And then this other video I'm going to put, I might put it up behind a paywall. And I don't know if I want it public because I touch on subjects that trigger people so much that it might be very difficult. And and the whole video is actually based upon free will and predetermination or fate. And it's basically a discussion on how that the ego is actually free will. And there's a lot to it, of course, in the way that I put it all out there, and how ego has been, of course, kind of defined in this other way of you know, this pompous attitude of things, but then it's subliminally actually hidden under the notion of free will, of the way that people like feel that they can manifest whenever they want when they want it. And so there's a lot of there's a lot there to think about when you think about 2018 and to 2019, because 2018 was a warm-up. Like I don't know how else to say that. Like it was a warm-up, because 2019 is major. So let's actually look at the Sun and Saturn conjuncting right now as we're talking. The reason why I'm live right now and I felt like going live is because this whole day, even yesterday and even days before, and I'll kind of go backwards to show people, this has not been really fun astrology. I'll be honest with you all. You want to talk about a new year that's not very fun? This one, I mean, if you just look at it as an astrologer and you look at it, not fun. Like, I don't know, if I were to, have run this, 15 years ago and somebody asked me, oh, how's New Year's going to be of 2019? I'd be like, oh, that's fucking shitty. Like, it's not like the greatest party you'll ever see, because it's extremely, everybody's dealing with some big major stuff, blocks, challenges, restrictive feelings, so there's a lot to look at here, but I think it'll help people. I think people will really be interested to see why. So let me screen share this. Okay, screen share your entire screen. Share. All right. So if we are here right now, we'll just do now. So this is January 1st. And I found out how to do this now, so where I can zoom in while I'm going live. So yeah, 10:21 p.m. Newport Beach. And what's kind of crazy about this is, look at this. The sun has just passed Saturn. So as I started this live, it was Sun and Saturn exactly conjunct. But to start the new year off with this element here of Saturn in its home sign is pretty major, because Sun and Saturn met at 0 degrees last year on the day that the sun went into Capricorn, and that was on an equinox, which is pretty major situation. But on a solstice, especially, I mean, not equinox, on the solstice point. But here we are now on a New Year's Day going into this, while at the same time, Mars went into Aries, its home sign. So now we have all these planets in their home sign. We got Mars, we've got Neptune, we've got Saturn, and we've got Jupiter. And it all happened with Venus and the moon in Scorpio in their signs they don't want to be in. The moon is at fall position. It's at the worst place for the moon to be. Scorpio. I'm not trying to put anybody with the moon in Scorpio down. There's benefits to moon in Scorpio. All I'm saying is that as an astrologer looking at you know, the way that this stuff is running, is it's not the best place, as well as Venus is at detriment in Scorpio. And Venus has been stuck in this very intense world because Venus came into shadow in September when it entered into Scorpio, and then it went retrograde in October, and then it went into Libra when it went direct in November, and then it came back into Scorpio. So it's been in here for a long time. So Venus, even though it went home in a retrograde in a really weird way, and then it came direct and it was out. And so Venus hasn't been in the best feel-good space. Plus, this is where I'm really trying to get people to start to look at deeper parts of astrology. And through deep astrology, I think I taught that this year. So if you look at this Sun and Saturn conjunction and the eclipse that is building, which is in the next couple of days, because as you can see, the moon is coming towards the sun for the solar eclipse on the 5th, we have this semi-square. So the eclipse is going to be semi-squaring Venus. And right now we have the Sun and Saturn semi-square Venus. I mean, it's a 45-degree angle, right? And it is not fun. It's not the best feel-good. And especially after Venus retrogrades, it takes a while because Venus and the Sun kind of go at this same similar rate of staying in this 45-degree angle throughout this whole last 3 to 4 months. I mean, we can even probably go back longer. And then we have the semi-square of Neptune, which has been semi-squaring over to Uranus, which you can see right there, at 45. And so with our spirituality and the world and where we're going and the radicalities that are happening in life, there is a lot of sensitive, unpredictable stuff that we are wanting to break out of. And also Uranus and Neptune, especially Neptune in its home sign, and Uranus in Aries wants to break free and do what it wants, but it can't fully with the semi-square, because with Neptune and Pisces, there's some sort of guilt. There's some sort of trap that we all feel trapped in. There's something that we feel is still holding us fully back. And with the Sun and Saturn, it is great for achieving and showing us what we can achieve and what we can do. But as a tendency to just feel good, the only place of feeling good is this moon, Venus, and Scorpio, which is extremely our deepest inner wants, mixing with this element of the Sun and Saturn of achievement. But there is this difficulty of it being of a typical, extremely normal kind of happy-go-lucky through your day-to-day life situation. I mean, we've got Jupiter in its home sign of Sag, and it's starting to make a square to Neptune. So, you know, we got a lot of weird stuff going on here. Now, I'll take everybody back real quick so we can go back to actually on New Year's Eve, which let's do this by the hour. And then let's do the minutes here. I'm going to do West Coast because I'm on the West Coast, but then I'll do East Coast because I can just go back 3 hours. And this is for America, and then I'll do Europe real quick. So New Year's Eve, or we can go right into New Year's. Okay, right here, New Year's. Boom. What do we see here on New Year's? Well, we have the Sun and Saturn, I'm going to talk about being this restrictive element, this intensity, this more sobering element in life. We have Venus, which of course is in its detriment. And we have the moon, which of course is in its fall. And really, it's this Mars and Aries that was the big deal. It just came off of the conjunction of Chiron. Let's just go back a couple days, and then you can apply this to wherever you're at in the world. So you go back on the 31st, Mars was at the last degree of Pisces. And then you go to the day before that, it was literally conjunct Chiron. So Mars has been through this hellhole. The last degree of Pisces, this isn't going to happen for 50 years, by the way. Remember, Chiron's on a 50-year cycle, and Mars and Chiron at the last degrees of Pisces won't happen for 50 years. So you got to remember that this is like a 50-year cycle of this by itself. Just if you just take this element This is not fun. This is like the warrior having to surrender, and then not only after surrendering, getting spit on, and it's a very Jesus Christ crucifixion moment too, in many ways, especially at these last degrees. There's another way to look at this too. It's kind of like, I don't know why I thought about this, but it's like being in Pulp Fiction, where they get taken down, to the weird warehouse, or to that basement, and all that bad stuff's going on when he goes into the wrong room, and those guys are doing that crazy crap to him, and then he somehow gets out, but then after, and he has to make a deal. It's just a really rough situation. And even though Mars did come into Aries for the New Year's Eve and into the new year, it did for the North America and South America energy, but the rest of the world, Mars is at the last degree of Pisces on New Year's, to start New Year's. So there is going to be this divide, I guess you could say, in the world as far as how things are going. One, I think that parts of the eastern part of the world are going through a very confusing identity crisis, while the Americas, and I'm talking about all the Americas, I'm not talking about, and I'll come back to the camera here, and then we'll go back and I'll show you some of this stuff. I don't want people to just think I'm not here with them. So the Americas, I'm not talking about United States of America, I'm talking about North America, South America. That was all Mars and Aries. That was that's defined. That's courage. It's taking action. With Saturn and the Sun, that's like deterministic. But when you have Mars conjunct Chiron and Pisces, and Mars at the very last degree, very last minutes for Europe, for Asia, for Australia, for Russia, for the UK, for all these other areas, parts of Africa. I mean, really, I think there's a confusing identity crisis of what's going on. It's pretty clear. It looks like, Canada, United States, and Mexico just figured out kind of an agreement, right? Okay. But you've got the EU, you've got Brexit situation, you've got the Middle East going all over the place, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on there with that, the Saudi Arabian situation. You've got China and the economy going way, way bad down. You've got Australia, which I think kind of is always protected in a weird way, but it kind of is wondering what's going on. They're having the biggest heat wave that they've had in a long time. I think they're going to be all right, especially, but this Brexit plays into Australians' world very intensely, which they don't even realize yet. And I covered that in my magazine because I feel like Brexit, and I feel like a bunch of my predictions that are in the magazine, especially about the Queen stepping down in 2019, which she's been in power since 1952, is going to change everything, and especially the way that a lot of the countries are going in Europe with the EU, and a lot of, I've watched some interesting talks lately, and I've been doing a lot of research, but the Deutschmark, the German doll, like the German money, which everybody's paying in Eurozone, euros, but Brussels is the home of the European Union, and this might sound crazy, and I didn't put this in my mag, but I was thinking about this. I mean, whenever Uranus does enter Taurus, which it will coming up here in the next couple months, during Brexit time, somehow Germany seems to find this really big way to come up in the world and take control and control other nations and all this stuff. I mean, we saw it with Hitler, and I'm not trying to refer currently, anything that's going down with that, but there is something about Germany always finding a way with Uranus and Taurus to kind of step up, whether you try to connect that to Hitler being a Taurus, or at 0 degree, or the Queen, who is 0 degree Taurus. That's at the same time that Uranus is coming in with this whole Brexit deal. dealing with Germany, maybe on the other side. I'm not saying that UK's going, you know, to turn out like that, but all I'm saying is there's something very odd here about the German situation. There's something very odd here about the European Union and the identity crisis in which it's going through. And that's actually kind of seeping itself throughout the world. So I'm not putting caution out there. I'm just saying if you were on that side of the world during this New Year's Eve and into New Year's, just be aware. You're in a world that's going to be very unsure of its identity. If you were in the Americas, it's pretty already lock solid in, okay? Like, and it's going to push that identity hard, and it's going to be very driven based energy, where there's going to be more things kind of falling apart. I think people think in American politics especially, it's all going to go to catastrophe. And there's some big things aligning, like the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, that will actually square the actual sun of when, you know, Cornwallis surrendered to and quit the war and basically created America. You could look at that chart, 24 degrees Libra. That was also a solar eclipse energy that was happening, and that was at 24 degrees Libra. So you could look at America's chart as whether you look at the Constitution, right? The solar eclipse that's starting in the next 4 days is going to oppose America's sun. And then you've got the chart of actually when America was physically really created without having to be in war. And you've got Saturn Pluto that's going to meet up at that 24 degree spot and square at the end of the year and into 2020, right? That's coming. So I think the American situation is going to sustain and find a way. I think there's some weird stuff with Trump, of course. There's a lot of hard stuff in his chart coming up. But I think America as a whole and the society element of it, and always finding a way to like quickly identify with what needs to be done next is not going to be an issue. Like, but I think the governments and the way that things are going on the other side of the world right now, including China, how funny, I got the world behind me, right? So how funny it is split down the middle. You know, one side's pretty easy to figure it out. Justin Trudeau's election's coming up at the end of 2019. So Canada is going to re-identify itself, but it'll be quickly. It'll be like, okay, we're staying in this thing, but also it's connected with Britain as well. There's a lot connecting to Britain here. There's a lot because of the Queen at 0 degree Taurus, which was the same way that when Uranus was in Taurus and the buildup of all these crazy things happened with Hitler, although it's interesting that she's going to be leaving, and then we'll have a new monarch in there, and we'll see how that new monarch is going to define the whole world in a weird way. And this is a big thing of what's coming up here. Now, going into your own individual lives about this energy, when all these planets are at home, and even though, yeah, so Mars did enter on New Year's Day into Aries, but at the exact point, depending on which country you were at, that's where I'm talking about. It's the Sun-Saturn thing, though. This year is not a year of playing around or continuing to, I guess you could say, play it all safe. There is no safety, I guess you could say, with not doing anything, I guess, or just waiting for a sign or waiting for a signal. Sun and Saturn, you make a call, you make a bet, you make a risk. You either, you can't pay to play kind of energy, right? And the reason why it rules business as well is because you can't run a business or have a business unless you take the risk of actually doing the business or putting up all the money that you have or signing a personal guarantee on a building or doing something that requires you to actually put up this major element of a risk, right? So if the way that the world is all going off is going to affect even the Western world of America and North Americas and South Americas, right? Because of what's happening with the chaotic energy of over there. And I think that that's going to be creating just a crazy identity storm when you have, this is I've never seen this in a chart before. I've never seen a New Year's Eve, you know, coming into New Year's, the new year. I've never seen a chart to where half the world has Mars and its identity at the last degree with Chiron there, and then the other side gets Mars and Aries in its home sign with all the other planets in their home sign, even though Sun and Saturn are conjunct. So we're all having a very intense, risky thing. I think that the number one thing is fear is by not doing anything. And fear is by sitting behind your decisions and not making them or percolating them or putting them on the back burner, which can be very easy with the Neptune element. So I'm gonna go back to sharing real quick. And actually before that, we'll check the chat room real quick here. We got 620 people here, so there's a lot going on. I just wanted to read and see what people's are feeling. 1,000 years of peace or doom, choose wisely. That's a very interesting way to look at things. Yeah, people going into Hitler funded by the Fed, blah, blah, blah. I get all that stuff. Stock market crash, you know, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Really, a lot of it is about currency shifting. So I know a lot of people want to get really deep when we talk about currency shifting in 2019 about, you know, of course, digital currencies like cryptocurrencies, right? Or they want to go really deep into, I mean, like things like Bitcoin or Litecoin or all this stuff. But really, it's going to be about, you have to remember there are countries that are in surplus. They're in the positive. But those countries that are in surplus are also, especially like in the EU, right? So you've got Germany, which has a great surplus because it produces lots of cars, lots of things. But then you got Greece that doesn't produce much except oranges and things like that, right? That's in debt, that basically it was a not debted nation before the EU. 92% of people in Greece own their homes. They didn't owe money. They didn't owe a lot of money. So when the EU came and it created the euro, and then guess what happened? Then there was all this money on the German side. So all the German banks loaned money to Greece, like to create money. Because if you have a bunch of money, you want to make money off it. That's what bankers do. So part of the kind of chaotic craziness is you have the EU and you have the people in Brussels that have lost a lot of money. If you actually look at the statistics, especially since the fall of 2008, that more people throughout the whole EU and all Europe who were wealthy have lost more money than any other place. And actually the biggest economy and the biggest financial marketplace is the Europe. It's bigger than America. It's bigger than anywhere else. The European Union is the largest marketplace. It's bigger than China. It's bigger than America. It's the biggest. More people have lost their money, wealth in that system than anywhere else. And so you've got countries that, and the other thing about it is there is a centralized bank, but that centralized bank will not print money when there's a problem. So in 2008, America printed money. Pretty much China printed, everybody printed money to save the day. The EU didn't, and then they went and taxed a bunch of people actually, and it created kind of this crisis that you could look at it at both sides. Like both sides are gonna have to figure this shit out. There's sides that printed a bunch of money, which go look at the history during the end of Pluto Capricorn into Pluto Aquarius. The Continental Army printed fake money. And then the British, to try and win the war, printed more counterfeit money to try and create no value in Continental Army money, which would try and hopefully sway the soldiers from the American rebels to stop fighting because they weren't making any money. Then what do you think when the war happened? Then America just, when it became a country, all that continental money meant nothing and created a new note. Okay, so I think that before we get to this whole crypto thing and individualized money between people and stuff like this, and you can go into everything from ICOs, like you know, startup coin operations, right, through businesses and getting people to invest, and those things are big. But you need to think that there's these huge bankers that have lost a shit ton of cash, have printed out a lot, have loans out from everywhere. This is going to take a while. This is Saturn Capricorn. It is not going to just be like collapse and then reset it all in one day. Like, it is going to take a while. And there is big bank and big control factors that are not going to allow people to just radically one day just be able to say, I'm free and I'm going to make my money and we're going to exchange like that. You know, it's going to take some time. And Uranus and Taurus, you got to remember, it takes time as well. And every time Uranus has come into Taurus, it's been about realigning alliances with all countries. All countries realign Uranus and Taurus because Uranus rules society and people. And when it comes into Taurus, it reevaluates, are we on the same page or not? And that goes into your personal life too. Is this person, is this group, is this organization, is this thing really worthy of who I am and where I'm going, especially when it's Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn? Like, so sure, marketplaces are all going to be all weird not because it just, this is a trend and okay, the markets collapse and then they fall. No, it's because of a deeper situation here. It's because of alliances shifting behind closed doors. And that's the alliance of who's going to control the world, who's going to control the money, who's going to control the banking system afterwards. Because you got to remember, all this money that was printed and all this stuff, you know, there's banks involved. And do you think they're going to just lose everything? They are going to create the system always into where that can all be. And there's a reason why Brexit is been brought up or gone down, because, you know, when Winston Churchill, before he left, went into this whole beginning of this whole, you know, European Union and stuff like that, you know, the gold standard pretty much kind of went down. Same thing with America. America at one time was a gold standard, right? We were based off gold, lost that, right? So, you know, the identity of what is a new gold standard is going to be showing up, which we all don't know. I mean, if people really think it's Bitcoin, or they think it's crypto, or they think it's just the whole entire network of how that works, I think that is just like the frosting on a deeper cake that we don't know or see yet. Of course, in Uranus and Taurus, it was war. So it was ships, and it was the production of these things. And America was producing this stuff and selling all the Brits the old stuff to stay alive. But they also knew they were going to enter the war once they had all the stuff. And no irony that Uranus and Taurus in 2018 brought about in Congress this huge element of the military being huge, with the $700 billion military spending for 2 years, for this year into next year too. Twice over. That's $1.4 trillion, which is the biggest we've ever spent on military ever in such a quick time, especially with planes, ships, and so forth. And then you have China doing the same thing. So I think there's going to be elements of that, but I think that there's something that we don't know yet that is going to be whatever we call the gold standard. So you got to remember that there's still going to be a way to survive. Like, I think that Saturn and Capricorn teaches you with Uranus and Taurus, like, you have to figure shit out on your own. Like, you know, having just a typical job, and if it doesn't work out with a corporation that can't figure it out themselves, and putting the power into their hands, and you just kind of sitting there going, like, this is really teaching kind of survival skills in many ways. Especially with the New Year's chart with the moon and Venus and detriment fall positions, right? Conjuncting in Scorpio, which ironically enough, if you look at the EU's chart, it's all Scorpio with Venus retrograde in Scorpio, the 1993 one. So I think it's so important for people to remember that no matter what goes on with the economies or the government elements and stuff, you got to take some risks. And I'm not saying that you got to go invest in some stock market. It's the investment in your value of self and who you are around. Because let's be real, let's look at the 1929 crash of Pluto-Uranus square, okay? And Aries and Cancer. Pluto was in Cancer. This time Pluto's in Capricorn. We're just finishing the Uranus and Aries element, which comes direct, by the way, on Sunday this week. So, who you were around, okay? There was a depression, yes. There was soup lines, yes. There was also people who were making extreme amounts of money that were not bankers during that time. It was all about who you were around. It was all about who, you were. And with Pluto in Cancer, it became this, I gotta survive. I gotta save the family. I gotta save my home. I will do anything to just have food on the table. Now with Pluto in Capricorn, it's not about survival of home. It's about survival of, am I high enough on the ladder of society to get to where I need to go? It's a lot like hierarchy. It's a lot about how to get through doorways that are very hard to get through. And it's not about how much money you have. It's not about any of that stuff. It's all about who you know and how you get up there. And more importantly, and this is the hardest part about Capricorn, right? Like, let's say you were going to go you wanted to go walk into the president's office. You just can't walk in there. You got to have a pass. You got to know the right person. You got to make sure you're on the schedule. The president wants to see you, him or her, whatever, right? But let's say you're best friends with someone who's best friends with the president, and you have a great idea, and that best friend of the president told the president that idea, and they said, "Oh, bring him in there, bring her in there, I'll see them whenever." Boom, you bypass all that stuff. You get the pass. Oh yes, we've been expecting you. Saturn in Capricorn is about who knows how to reach the top politically by the moves you make, the risks you make, but more importantly, with Uranus and Taurus too, about changing who you're around. Who you're around is everything in what you're going to manifest. You're around a bunch of people sitting on the couch smoking weed and talking about their money problems. You are going to be sitting around the table talking about your money problems and smoking weed and doing that the whole fucking time. That's Uranus and Taurus. Uranus and Taurus is straight up gnarly when you add Saturn and Pluto and Capricorn about status. So you have to put a new set of responsibility on yourself for the status that you put out there in the world. And it's not easy now, because this year we got away with it a little bit in 2018, but I bet you all realized, including myself, that there were parts in your place, in your life, where you had been around certain people, especially with this year being a Mars retrograde year, 2018, and Venus was retrograde in 2018, right? That you got put around people that you associated with, and then things went weird. And you went, no, this isn't good, bye. Those are all tests, because this year you can't fuck around. Sucks, but you can't fuck around, because guess what? You're gonna be involved with somebody or some people, and they're gonna, now that there's no joke of the Sun-Saturn conjunct on this new year, and with Mars and Aries being very identification kind of energy of identity of yourself and what you're doing and where you're going, that's what you're going to get. So we also aren't done with Venus out of Scorpio. And the day that Venus leaves Scorpio on the 7th, it's actually on the day Uranus leaves Aries. Leaves its retrograde and goes direct. So on the night of the 6th, which is 4 days away, coming up 3 days away, we're done with the 6+ years. It's like 6 years and 3 months of all the karmic Scorpio transits of the last 6+ years. Done. We're done. Which means there's also no more playing around when it comes to your true self, your true needs, what you know you really want, what you want to attract and bring into your life, because Scorpio is about bringing it in. So it's not so much about, oh gosh, I'm going to lose everything because the markets fall and there's a stock market crash and everybody's going to be in a big depression. Okay, if you choose to be that and you want to join that group and you want to be part of that group and that's what you're going to bring in, go right ahead and be part of that group, which is going to be subliminally put out in such a major way. This is going to be a major test for everybody because now that the Scorpio energy is done, what you bring in, like there's no more games. I think that we've all had big major warning signs coming at the last end of December here with all the Scorpio stuff that finished, and especially in November with the end of, Jupiter in Scorpio, that it was a major ending and a major reminder and almost a deathly scare of what boundaries not to cross, not where to go, and not what to bring into your life anymore. Like there's no more games. Like the universe has given you all the lessons. Like these lessons are real. These lessons, there's no more training wheels now. Sun and Saturn on the New Year's Day, all the planets in their home signs, not all, but most. Like, so the scariest part is that there is no more you get out. Like you get out without getting, like you get like that little sting, right? Like, but it didn't kill me, or I got out, Like now you can't fuck around. Like now there's no more, getting involved with stuff that you're deeply afraid of getting and receiving. So that's what's going to be, I think, the hardest part about 2019 is remembering what terrified you in 2018 about lines and places that you jumped into, or places or people that you jumped into, and receiving that energy back that you don't want, and those fears that are around that. Like there's no more games with that, because that was the deepest Scorpio test of the last 35 years, was the last 6 years of finishing up what was terrifying people that were around and living through 84 and 85 during the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that was in Scorpio. So now that that's all done and Saturn and Pluto are start their conjunction, and all the energy on January 6th is done with Venus, there's no more training wheels. It's done. And I think that's the hardest part about this, is because, well, actually, let's look at the good, because I'm more of always the good. But lately, when I see a lot of this stuff, I have to be just the truth speaker. But, I think that the good is that what not to go down, which road not to go down anymore, because the universe is scared the flying shit out of you if you go down that road, right? But it's about learning to transmute the energy and maybe of why you want to go down that road, and realizing that road's not a good road to go down, because this is no more distraction time. This is do or die, the reason why you're down here, or you missed the boat. I mean, a lot of, even the Christians say, like, they even made movies about it. Like, I forgot the name of the movie. It's like, what was the name of that movie? It was like, not called Missing the Boat, but it's like Left Behind. And so they kind of put it as this, oh, you're left behind. You didn't make it to God and Jesus. So you're left on the earth alone with people who are all sinners and all going to hell or whatever, right? So I'm not saying like left behind means you're going to a place like that, but left behind means, this wasn't the best place to go down. And do you want to be caught up in the system or get caught up in a place that you don't want to be, or in alignment, or in a lifetime, or into a destiny that's not fulfilled in such a way in where you want to be. I mean, there's a ton to go over with that, you know. So um, I will end with this last chart, and then I have to eat dinner because my dinner's here, and I'm late. So hold on one second. Let's go back to the screen share. Share. All right. So this is New Year's, and I'll finish this real quick. So this was New Year's for the West Coast. Now we'll just move it hours. Or well, really, I mean, I guess I could just edit the chart for New York. New York. Yeah, New York. Select, calculate. So on New Year's in New York, it was Mars and Aries. It barely made it in. It barely made it in, but hey, it made it in. So that's the good news about it all. And there wasn't much change in a lot of the stuff. So, you know, that was the New York energy. So in Americas, you know, and anybody in that kind of line, you know, that's all kind of been shown. But if we do it now and we change it, and we do for Europe, so we'll do it for, well, I'm born in the Netherlands, or I'm not born there, but my family's from the Netherlands, so we can do the Netherlands. And we'll do Amsterdam. So here was New Year's for Amsterdam and most all of Europe and all that stuff, right? So look at this. Mars 2954 Pisces. So a lot of Europe's going to be going through a lot of this weird stuff. And I wanted to re-bring that up because it's definitely going to go through some weird stuff and some deep healing energy and some really weird redefining moments. But if I go back to this current transits, all right, to today and what's happening now, we're finishing the Sun Saturn, and there's no playing games. Now the moon leaving Scorpio tomorrow will start its balsamic phase. As once it crosses Jupiter, it will enter the balsamic phase. And we're getting ready for the solar eclipse. And then of course, Venus is just literally days away from getting out of Scorpio and finishing all the Scorpio transits of the majorness of the last 6.5 years. And we got Mercury getting ready to square to Chiron. There's a lot. This week is no joke. This is not just a slow New Year starting, except for the Sun and Saturn is getting everybody prepared. This is like super preparation moment. This has not been party moment. And I'm going to turn it off.